You've reached the Union of Metro Street podcast, where we discuss the San Diego music scene of the late 80s and all of the 90s, from the shows we worked to the shows we played. Here we go.
All right, so that was Social Spit, and we are here with the legend. I have to throw that out there. Cliff Pegleg Cunningham from Social Spit.
It's good to be here.
It is so. I'm so stoked you're here. How you been?
I'm doing fine. I mean, other than the normal aches and pains of somebody my age,
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good.
A brisk, what, 45?
Add 20 to it.
Are you really?
I'll be 65 in December.
Wow.
Medicare. Having a big Medicare birthday party this year.
That is crazy. I didn't even realize you were that old. I mean, you don't look it.
Thank you.
And I mean,
Thank you.
literally a legend. And we were talking earlier. Yeah, you came to my first show with the real band down in the dungeon, and that was what, 90. But you know, we got so much to talk about. But I want to do a deep dive. But people recognize you from not only Social Spit, but Off the Record. And as we were talking earlier, how Run Into People, and so many people got their first taste of punk rock or whatever from going to Off the Record and getting, you know, whatever record you recommended. People would just go in there specifically to see what you would, you know, recommend on that day. But let's do a deep dive. Like, what got you into music when you were a kid? Where'd you grow up? And
I grew up in Lynn, Massachusetts, which is about 12, 13 miles north of Boston, right on the coast. It's a very old town in Massachusetts. And, you know, spent my whole young days there, just went to school and graduated from school there. And back in... I'd say around 65 or so, my mom and dad had separated. She used to take us to the beach, and she had this Sears Silvertone AM/FM radio. And she would play the radio while we were at the beach. And that's really what really started me being interested in music, you know, and it was, the format was top 40. And as we got older, she'd let us take the radio out on Saturdays to bring it to the street corner that our friends hung out, my brother and I. with our friends, and we'd listen to Casey Kasem's Top 40.
Yeah.
So that whole young age, I was really liking music. But it took me going to the Navy after I graduated and finished boot camp. I turned 18 in boot camp, came out to San Diego in January of 1977. And that was the change that started me broadening my horizons on music. I mean, things that I never listened to back there, because the radio stations, I didn't listen to much FM stuff. And so coming out here, a much more wider range of music.
I gotta jump in real quick because I'm a Navy guy. What rate were you?
I was aviation machinist mate, and I worked on H-3 Sikorsky helicopters. And if you go on to the Midway, you'll see it's painted two ways, but one side of it is HS-4, the Black Knights. It's got an orange.
I was out with the HS-4. I was in VF-2 Bounty Hunters, F-14 Squadron. I was on the USS Ranger. I did 2 Westpacks.
Well, I did the Westpac on the Ranger in 79.
Well, but there you go. 2 Ranger guys.
Yep.
And then unfortunately that ship got scrapped.
Yeah, it did. And so then more music started coming to me. I got Circus magazine. There was a pretty wide variety of bands, weird stuff in there. And then I remember in 78 when the Sex Pistols were on tour, I was at the barracks in the room where there's a TV room, everybody could watch TV, and CBS News was on, and they show the Sex Pistols. And I remember looking at it and saying, what the hell is this shit?
Yeah.
Didn't really strike me yet.
Yeah.
And so getting ready for that Westpac cruise in 79, I thought, I want to get some more letters for people when I'm out there. So in Circus magazine, there was an ad for pen pals, and there was 2 girls from New Zealand, and one of them, her name was Cherry Foster. Still friends with her to this day on Facebook.
Wow.
And she still lives in New Zealand. She was into the Cars, AC/DC, so a mixture of like hard rock and kind of new wave-ish stuff. And so she started sending me tapes, and I started saying, this stuff sounds good. I like this.
Yeah.
So on the cruise, in the shop there where you could just buy stuff, they had cassettes, and I had a cassette Ghetto Blaster or something. And of all the tapes there was a Vibrators cassette, Pure Mania. And I thought, this is interesting. So I got that. And then Nick Lowe, Pure Pop for Now People. So I started getting that, and then started listening to some of my friends who were into prog rock, like Rush, UK. Other friends were into heavy metal stuff like UFO, and I liked AC/DC. So this kind of stuff is all heading in the direction that I ended up in, some of that stuff. I got back from the Westpac, and Jim McGinnis from KGB, I'm friends with him on Facebook. He was the guy that saved my life. I've told him this a million times. He had a Sunday night show called The Modern World, and he's played all kinds of weird stuff. So he played one night the UK subs, Scum of the Earth, and I was just floored. And at the end of the show, he goes, if you like these records, you can get them at Off the Record. Gave the address. So boom, just took me 2 or 3 buses from North Island to get to Off the Record, and then go in there, and here's the flyers, the old fashioned cut and paste flyers about shows. Started picking them up. And the first show I went to was the Alley Cats and the Penetrators at the Catamaran Hotel in Pacific Beach. And I wasn't quite 21, so I took my military ID and used a hot knife, and I just melted the first number on the month. So instead of being born in December, I was born in February.
Yeah.
And it worked. I got in there. I said, oh, this is fucking great. So once I saw those 2 bands, I said, it took off at that point. And it was cool being into punk rock, new wave back then because, I had short hair being in the Navy. So, I didn't look like a hippie or some scumbag. So they everybody kind of just took me in.
Yeah.
And went to some shows at the original Skeleton Club at 4th and Broadway, and North Park Lions Club, and then Skeleton Club number 2, 202 Market Street, right near where the original Somer in that area was.
Yeah.
And it just, that was it. I mean, it just went from 0 to 100 in just like a few months.
And because of Jim.
Yep. That was, I mean,
that's so crazy.
Because, again, you're on the base there. I didn't have a car, and I didn't know. I knew about like arcade records in downtown San Diego. I bought stuff there. Mm-hmm. But, off the record and places like Blue Meanie, which I found shortly after, and Lou's Records up north, that's where they had all kinds of weird stuff. It wasn't just the regular stuff at Tower Records and Warehouse, And it's just funny. I end up, 3 years later working it off the record after going there.
Yeah. Well, how did that end up happening that you ended up working?
Well, they knew me there, and I was in the Navy, and then I got cancer in my leg, Ewing sarcoma. So they successfully removed the tumor in my leg and went through chemo and radiation. And that was in 82. And then at the end of 82, going into 83, I got an infection, a long-term infection that just never healed. Finally ended up back in Balboa Hospital, and my leg was amputated right above the knee. So they knew about this, the guys at Off the Record,
right,
and all the punk rock scene. I still have cards from all these people, living and dead, that signed Get Well to me.
Yeah.
And so in 83, as the spring of 83 came around, I was interested in doing a compilation of San Diego bands, Our Blowout. And Larry, he funded me. He got me going on this venture to put this cassette out. So then as 83 went along, at the end of 83, Off the Record was expanding, and I came in there one day, and I wasn't working because I didn't have to. I was disabled military. I got a pension.
Medical discharge.
And, doing some other, what we'll just say, under-the-counter type of jobs. And he says, "Hey, you want to get a job here?" I said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" "Sure."
Yeah.
And so Larry and Rich hired me in the fall of 83, and I stayed there until January of 1990 when I was in the post office. I tried to do both jobs, but the post office just wouldn't cooperate. I couldn't keep a schedule because I was a part-time flexible, they called it. So, you're going to work like 10, 12 hours a day, sometimes a split shift, and you never knew you were going to get.
It's funny, you were in the Navy and then I did the same thing.
Yeah, my first wife, her father, when he retired, he told me, because he went and got a government job right after retiring. He says, the post office is having their tests coming out. Why don't you do it? And I was getting married to Anna. I said, I got to get a real job here, I think.
Actually, I thought the post office was worse than the Navy. I'd rather be in the Navy than the post office.
No, I loved the post office. I hated the management for the most part, but the job was great. I had a great time, great time there. I loved the Navy. If I didn't get cancer on my leg, I know I would have did 20 years. I wasn't married.
Yeah.
I remember going on the Westpac and having a ball over there, and just, it was like a kid in a candy store. I remember sitting on the flight deck as we're going back home, and I thought, God, I don't even want to go home. 18-year-old kid.
Seeing the world.
I was turning 19 in that year of 79. No, and I'm sorry, take that back. I was 20 and when we went. So I was still young, and that was fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
And then you've got all the new music, and you've got a purpose, and 20 years old. I mean, that's
right.
Usually the music is what transitions as you get older and get out of high school, and then a lot of people will either drop it or some people still pursue it.
What's cool too is it seems like you're a positive guy. Like you stayed positive even losing your leg.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for my family in the punk rock scene, I would have never made it. I mean, they would come to visit me. I can remember being in the hospital ward it's the older looking building that they didn't tear down.
Yeah.
And here comes Chris Smith, George, Mark Rude, I think maybe Rich Pleasant, the roadie, and some other people. They come walking in to visit me, and you couldn't hear a fucking pin drop when they walked in to visit me.
I can only imagine.
So I had that kind of support,
Yeah.
all through when I originally got cancer, and then going back to the hospital and losing my leg. I admit there was a couple of times when I was losing my leg that I was a little bit down, but I had enough support. And I figured the old saying I always say, I'd rather be alive with one leg than dead with two legs.
Yeah.
And a lot of doctors I've speak to today said, even though I went through chemo and radiation and they took it out, more than likely it might have came back in that area if I didn't lose my leg. So I think it all worked out.
Well, yeah, it's also part of your moniker, and inspirational. It's kind of, at this point, literally, you're a legend. And,
just
I
feel weird when people say that. I swear I feel so weird. I just feel like I'm just a guy that just, one of my other nicknames was Social Cliff. I just liked people, got along with people. Mm-hmm. And I transferred some of my thoughts and knowledge to people. I didn't care. I never cared about anybody looking up to me or anything like that.
Well, that's part of the inspiration to make people realize. Because one of the things that I run into, and what I did with Selma and all that, is trying to reconnect with people, but their egos are so big that I automatically just feel like, all right, well, fine, you're freaking rich and famous, and who am I? So, all right, fuck it. And I've got this whole thing of, egos getting in the way. Mine's gotten in the way. It's why I had so many problems with drinking and everything. It just, it gets really evil. But to stay humble and to stay focused and positive, that's not a trait that many people can hold on to, especially in times of adversity, let alone losing a limb, going through, career change. But then the music and everything that you carried through, that's what gives that status. Right. And to be humble about it just makes it even, I just like entertaining people too. That was the one thing, I was never in a band or anything before Social Spit, zero knowledge of any of it. But I did get that satisfaction of making people happy. Yeah. So when did you go from the transition? Is it from working it off the record and you like around the music and you're like, I'm going to start?
No, I did Social Spit even before off the record. Social Spit, if we want to go into the history of it, in July, I think it was like July 7th of 1980, there was a show at the Blind Center in Balboa Park. It's still there. So there was only one show there ever. It was a punk rock show, as far as I know. And it was the Stingers, the Neutrons, which later went into the Battalion of Saints, and the original Social Spit, which was fronted by Bruce Scabs Atwell. And when I saw Social Spit, they were really crude. They, was not very professional, I thought, but it was good. I liked it. And I became friends with them. It ended up, some people in the band went later to other bands. Squirrel was the guitar player for 5051. And his half brother, Scott Harbour, was the bass player in 5051. And they were both in Social Spit. And Dave Fleminger, who's in other bands through the years, he was a guitar player in Social Spit. I think he helped them out. I'm not sure how much he played with them, but he helped them out. And then Brian Hippie Watkins was the drummer. So, I saw them and I thought, they're kind of crude and stuff, but I liked them.
Yeah.
And they were playing a mixture of some originals that they barely knew what they were doing, and then some covers that were barely listenable. So later, that band kind of dissipated because 5051 started. And then Bruce got a hold in the fall of 1980, Johnny V on guitar.
Yeah.
And Russ Weber from Violation 5. I think he was in Violation 5 or one of the early bands in San Diego. And so I saw them later in that fall. They were at the North Park Lions Club, and they were way better.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah.
And so I just befriended them more. And then in like the winter of 80 into 81, I think it was 81 maybe at the very beginning, they invited me to go to the studio, which is still there, Sweetwater Studios in National City. So I get on my motorcycle and go down there. And so Bruce Scabs Atwell, the singer, he doesn't show up. He's not there. And so they wanted to play anyway. They go, hey, do you want to sing? Here's the lyrics. And, here's the songs. I knew some of them from seeing them in concert a couple times. And just started doing it. And all of a sudden, the next thing I know, I'm in Social Spit. I can't remember exactly. It took about a month or so of a transition from Bruce to me. Because after I did that initial audition or whatever you want to call it, he came back. And I guess one of the reasons why they didn't care that he left is because he couldn't remember the lyrics. He just had a hard time just, remembering them. Right. And it could have been other reasons too, but that was one of the reasons. So that was it. All of a sudden, boom, I'm in Social Spit. And we didn't play along. That version didn't last for a long time. We played pretty much through 81. And then Brian, the drummer, he went to college. So then, he left town. In 82, it was like April of 82, I got my operation, started chemotherapy for cancer. He came back on a visit from college, and we did Social Spit one time in 82. We did a benefit at the Kings Road. I think it was I can't remember if it was for Be My Friend magazine. I can't remember without looking at some flyers. But we played there with Code of Honor and some other bands. And I taped that show, and my voice was shot from the chemo. And I hadn't sang for a while. I mean, sounded like I drank Drano. And I remember on the tape, I'm so glad Johnny taped it, because at the end, Mark Rude comes out and he goes, and he imitated my voice. He goes, hey, thank you, Social Spit. And they should have a reunion every year. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing him. And so that was it. Then I lost my leg, and Johnny went to San Francisco, and Russ moved to Colorado, I think first, either Colorado or Louisiana. Maybe it was Colorado first. And in the fall, November or so of 85, Johnny came back from San Francisco, and I talked to him. We got together and said, hey, let's get the band going. So at that point, I'd met so many bands and people at Off the Record, and heavy metal band Prowler. They were pretty good in the mid 80s, late 80s in San Diego. Yeah. We got their drummer, Paul Scumdog Valentine. And then Johnny knew this guy, Mike Von Gietzen. No, I'm sorry. I take it back. Before Mike Von Gietzen, we had Sean Cawley from Diatribe. And we restarted Social Spit. And that lineup didn't last too long. Sean left. And then we got Mike Von Gietzen. And that lineup lasted for a few years. And we did our first record on Mystic Records. So that was we recorded that probably in late 86. I think the record came out in 87. So it was late 86, something like that we recorded. Yeah. Then we added a second guitar player, Mike Chandler. Not Mike Chandler. Was it Mike Chandler? Yeah, Mike Chandler. And John Chandler. I'm sorry, John Chandler. I'm thinking of a guy who worked with it at the post office, Mike Chandler. John Chandler was on second guitar. That was the best lineup, I thought. Two guitars was unreal. And that didn't last very long. And finally in '87, we had a pretty long lineup of Dave Psycho Nestor on bass with Javier Vega on drums.
Oh, yeah.
And we did our live single and our album, No Place Like Home, with that lineup. That lasted until, just somewhere around 91. And then we went with Chris Roth, who now sings with the Revolt Chicks she was on drums, and she was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny always gave her a hard time because she wasn't good enough like some of the other drummers we've had through the years. But she was great. She was into it so much. And then we got this guy, and I can't think of his last name, long-haired guy, lived in OB. His name is Rudy. And we did a few shows with that lineup at the original Soma, in the dungeon and in the main room.
Yeah.
And that lasted until about sometime in very, very late 92 into early 80. And that's when I met Lynn, my first wife, at the post office, and moved up in 93, at the end of 93 with her. Got married to her in 94. So that was the early days of Social Spit.
Yeah.
From 80 till 92, 93.
Did you guys do any touring during that time period?
No.
Okay.
No, not during that time period. Not that I can recall, because I don't know. It's just, I'd never had a good vehicle. I had a little Dodge Colt for a long time. You're not going to put shit in there for, unless I'm going to fill it up with some punk rock chicks and take them, We didn't have a van or anything. So I don't know. We just didn't care. And then people were working and had jobs, and I don't know, just never worked out. Even later, the furthest we ever went was Las Vegas, and to the Double Down. And I just thought that was the biggest waste of time to go all the way to Vegas to do one show. It's just, So I don't know. I never really, I didn't feel like I wanted to do that. I talked to people that they went on tour in the van, like the Henry Rollins book, Get in the Van. Do I really want to, have one leg and go in a van all over the United States? And no. So I don't know. I kind of, sometimes I wish I did a little bit more of that out of town, maybe up to the LA area at least.
Right.
But I don't regret it, really.
Yeah, I never toured. We played LA. I went with short-lived on a short stint up to San Francisco, but Jerry's toured multiple different tours, and I'm not a tour guy. I don't like being on the road. I always found a reason to be at home, but I've always been like that.
Yep.
But on the other hand, because I remember, this might be a rumor, but everyone knew who you were. So Exploited would come through, and I'd heard something. Remember the Point Loma house? Was that your house?
Yeah, that was on Catalina Boulevard.
Yeah.
That was a great place. I was there from sometime in 91 to 93, a couple of years. It was party central there.
Yeah, I remember because I went there once. But there was something I had heard about you with Waddy being there, and that you were ironing his hawk, or crimping his hawk, or
no, I don't think that was. I don't think I did that.
It's an urban legend.
In fact, I don't even know if Waddy. I'm not sure if Waddy went to that house. I know the Mentors went there. The Deadbolt played there. But I'm pretty sure Waddy was mostly at my other house at 4251 Swift Avenue.
Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure all the time. And I think he'd have some chick do his hair. I don't think he'd have me iron his hair.
Then it's one of those urban legends.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, keep it going.
But that's the thing. I mean, everyone, because of Off the Record, and until now, I thought that you guys had toured, but thinking about it, it's like, no, I don't remember.
We went to San Bernardino once. I knew it was going to be a disaster right away. I mean, it was like one of these 15 band shows up there, and we were going to be like really early, like first or second or third band, and we played at the Pier View pub like on a Friday night. Then we were going to do this show on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I rented a van. I think what was it? No, it was an SUV. It wasn't even a van. It was SUV to put shit in. And come to find out, like after the Pier View pub show, like everybody wanted to take their own equipment. So good, fine. I can't remember if I took Lenny with me or what. I can't remember. Anyway, we go up there and it was like 6 people there. Like go all the way to San Bernardino. It's fucking hot as hell. And here's like 6 people or so watch. It might have been some more, but I thought, no, not again, never again.
Yeah,
I suppose
never again. Then we went to
15 bands playing.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it was a huge thing, and like, 3 punk rock bands in a night is really enough for me. I was younger. Yeah, I went to the Olympic Auditorium, the big LA shows, and even those shows were usually only about 6 bands, 5 or 6 bands, And you're younger, you have, let's say, we'll just call it, we get motivation to stay up all night to watch this shit. And I think the most fun out-of-town show we did is with the Weirdos. We did a show with them at the Ken Club, and then the next night we went to Temecula, and there was a sports bar there. And there was a lot of people there. That was a lot of fun because it's only about an hour or so away.
Yeah.
And
Temecula was nice.
It was great, but that was still away from San Diego, and there was all kinds of people that never saw us, and we got a good response. So I wouldn't mind today maybe going and play at the Poorhouse in Oceanside. That would be a good road trip for me.
Yeah.
In Temecula, maybe Hemet at the furthest, but any further than that, I may have to take Johnny V with me in the car, and I just don't know if I could stay in the car with him for that long. It's just, I love Johnny. I love him to death, but, that's the things I think about on going on the road.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, for me, I guess it would be, well, especially back in the day, it's just, how long can I go without drinking? And then can I hold a conversation with these people without drinking? And then that would just get in my head. I mean, everything was so, surrounded by alcohol. And then none of the bands, well, except for since in 77, we were really serious. I mean, that was my baby. I really wanted to push that. And we started doing well. But I had Stoney that I could lean on. I could really communicate with him. But other than that, with all the bands, I never really had that sort of bond where it's like a brotherhood where we can make it through anything. So I had that kind of insecurity of if something goes down, am I going to be left here in the middle of nowhere? And then I've got my bass or a mic or whatever I was doing at the time. It always gave me a big fear.
I think I think Lenny went on tour. I think he went on tour with the Nightmare River Bottom Band, I think. So he had some experience on the road. So, but the rest of, Johnny, I don't know what he did. He was on the road when he was real young, in this kind of church rock band, several years before Socials. But he went all over the country, and they play like Led Zeppelin, and the people go crazy. He goes, well, if you like that song, how about this? And then they do a rock and roll religious song.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name of it. He told me the name of the, what they were called. So he had experience going all over the place, at a younger age.
Yeah.
But, again, I'm just happy to sleep in my own bed every night. I don't have to sleep on a couch or anything like that.
I had to do enough couch surfing, just being homeless is, especially during the Soma time when I was doing that. It seemed like I was, homeless about, I don't know, once a year or so for a short period. It was really rough. And I just got tired on futon or a chair or a couch, my car. So being on the road, it just, I don't know, that's probably mine. But we're few and far between. Most people love being on the road. I mean, Jerry's been on, done the Ozfest and all these other tours. He still goes out and works with Buck 09 as basically, the road manager / merch, just,
everything.
Oh,
the
merch.
responsible one.
I'm bad with merch.
Yeah.
I wish you were at the show tonight because I got just T-shirts, very simple. And after I loaded them in the car, I said, God, I just want to give them all away. I don't want to sell. I don't want to. So I'm going to sell them for real cheap and just hopefully like.
What you do, just set them up, and then after you guys are done playing, go over there and sell.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
A lot of bands do that.
So I don't know how you could deal with that. I think not in my own band. If that was a job like you have, I could do merch. But in my own band, I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
Well, you got the job already doing vocals.
It's a lot of work. Merch is a lot of work.
Oh,
People
yeah.
don't get it, and especially.
But it's a good money.
Yeah, and the band needs it to tour. We need that money to keep going on, and we just got off a little 3-day run with the Mad Caddies. So last week we were in Hermosa Beach on a Friday, and then Saturday we played the Glass House in Pomona, and then we went to Vegas and did backstage billiards, whatever that Fremont Country Club. It's split in two, so that was a good show. So it was a good little run. It was 4 days, but I drive down here from Port Hueneme, Oxnard, and come down to San Diego to meet up with Bucko 9 to do these runs.
Wow.
So it's a lot of work, and basically I do it for free. So I do it because I love it. So
that's the way to think.
And that's the
and
thing.
then if you do ever get some money, wow.
Yeah.
I get a per diem and I get tips, so it's all good. I do it just because, again, like you said, it's the brotherhood, and especially if you're in a band, it's got to be a marriage. You guys have to get along, especially, like you're saying, you don't like to tour. If you're touring, you have to get along because it will end on the road.
I would get along, I think, okay. And if I had any problems with Johnny, which me and him are like button heads about things for 40 years, I would just do the Joey Ramone thing where he just did the shows with Johnny because he had the big falling out with Johnny, and then
walk away, and you don't see him again until you get on the stage again, or maybe you don't even have to see him in the studio. Just go in there when he's not there.
Yeah.
But I love Johnny. Don't get me wrong. I love the guy. I wouldn't want to play with anybody else.
Yeah, there's bigger bands that would have their own tour buses, so everybody would be in a separate bus.
Oh yeah.
God, the cost of that. Jeez, what a waste
of
money.
You're looking at $1,000 a day for the bus.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of, how did Ugly Lenny end up in the band?
Johnny V, I'm pretty sure he knew him. And Lenny's been with us for quite a while. He joined in 2005, so this is his 18th year. He's been with us for 18 years.
I had no idea.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure I met him before Social Spit when he was in Inciting Riots with his original lineup with Pegadeath and Dan Scum. And so in 2005, when Social Spit was getting together for a more permanent thing, we used Dan Scum on drums. That was the 2005 lineup. And Lenny he's solid. I mean, the guy, you can depend on him. He's going to be there. And he helped us out when we needed a practice place. We shared, his space at his house with Inciting Riots. It was much appreciated. And he learns quick, and I mean, if we don't have a lot of practices, he's the kind of guy, he goes, give me the set list, and he'll sit at home and listen to tapes, and he'll just practice by himself.
He's professional as hell. And, I've known him for probably almost close to as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
And I actually got a chance to jam. There's some tapes floating around back when Jack Shrivelsack and, oh my God, the drummer from CTD, back when they were CTD, at the drum, I feel bad, I forget his freaking name. But yeah, they're another, we all kind of grew up, and I ran into Lenny a few years ago when I had an art gallery, and seeing where he is now and all the bands that he's doing. And I mean, he's the go-to guy.
No, he is.
And the fact that he's with you is, that's another.
Well, again, we all appreciate him.
It's
so much.
Great line.
And yeah, when you're in multiple bands, you're trying to juggle schedules, but it's not hard to do it with Social Spit because, I don't reach out enough to get shows.
Right.
I've done it, but I never feel good about it. I don't feel like calling somebody up like, hey, Joe, like whoever, just some name. We're going. Do you think you could get us on this particular show?
Yeah.
I don't like doing that. I mean, so because of that, that's why sometimes you don't see Social Spit very much. We play a handful of shows year in and year out. Some years are better than others.
Right.
And but yeah, Lenny, he's a good guy. And Javier, he's been with us almost steadily since '87. Only a few years he didn't play with us. And the guy is another guy, solid. He's got a family, works at a full-time, long-hour jobs, and he's still, he's there when we need him. And the guy's a phenomenal drummer. I mean, he was, I guess when he started playing in bands before Social Spit in the mid-'80s, he was like a teenager, starting out. He looked up to guys like Junior Solius and others from that era that were the big shot guys.
And is he local? Javier?
Yeah, he's out in Blossom Valley, just east of El Cajon. Lenny's in El Cajon.
Yeah.
Johnny's in Spring Valley. And Johnny, no matter how much shit I give him, the guy, he can play any kind of instrument, literally. He can do all kinds of audio work and, recording and hooking up PAs and songwriting, although I think he needs to step it up, Johnny, if you hear me. You need to step up some new music because Lenny was the last person really with some new music for us. And, but the guy's like solid player.
Yeah.
And he could play anything.
Yeah.
So
I still love watching him play. It's just, that's great. We actually, the wife and I saw you guys a while back at the Casbah. This, I don't know, probably a couple of years ago. And it was another one of those times where I wanted to come and say, Chris was there even with her husband, I believe.
Her former husband.
Oh, okay. And, because at one point it was after Pour, I was trying to form a new band. And I had talked to Chris, the scene about, would you be interested? And it was kind of dabbled. Because I always just thought she was just freaking powerhouse on the drums. And just, I loved the look. It never ended up happening. And I went through another drummer and I don't even remember. Eventually ended up doing, I think after that was Cockroach. Completely different thing. But Johnny on stage with Lenny and just seeing you guys on stage. Like I said, my wife and I, she was just having a fucking blast. And we're just watching, just going, yeah, this is it. This is seminal San Diego punk rock band. And it just looks so good. And it's so exciting.
Now, at this point where we're talking, maybe we should continue on from 2005 to today.
Yeah.
About Social Spit, so that was a great lineup with Dan Scum and Lenny, me and Johnny, and it was doing good. But then, problems happened with Dan Scum. I love Dan Scum, but he didn't own a drum set. He used to use Lenny's set. Sometimes things would break. He didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And, the things happened where we just couldn't keep, he couldn't stay in the band. It wasn't going to work out. I remember playing at the Metaphor Cafe with him in Escondido. That was so much fun. I wish that place was still going on. And we have a short set Social Spit. We play, 15, 16 songs. That's it, 30 minutes. So we get about halfway to 2/3 the way through the set. And I turned to him after a song and he looks at me and goes, last song. I said, what? He goes, last song, meaning like he was done.
Yeah.
I said, fuck you, something to that respect. We finished the set because he was out partying with ladies before the show. And
right.
If anybody wanted to give him something, whatever it was, he's going to take it. And I just saw him recently in June. He's doing really good. He lives right up the street up on the hill here. He's doing real good. He's really into music. He looks great and nice guy. So after he left, we went through a couple of drummers. We got Jimmy Flynn from Ministry of Truth fame. And he was great. And we were doing real good with him. And unfortunately, he had some personal problems with certain things. So that wasn't going to go anywhere with him. So we picked up Duncan Scott, and he plays in various bands around. And that poor guy, we hardly gave him a chance to practice. I mean, he was like, he told me one day, he said, Cliff, playing with Social Spit, it's like cramming for a test every show and every practice. And he did a GBH show with us at the Casbah. Great guy. And then I think, he basically, between us, it wasn't going to work out for him the way things were going.
Right.
And then here comes Javier came back. So that was probably around 2010, 10-ish. And so this lineup has been, solid 13 years. With the exception of the COVID era, we've played, several shows a year or more since 2010 till today. And it sucked speaking of COVID, beginning of 2020, we got to open for TSOL. We actually got to support them at the Casbah. Great show. This is going to be celebrating our 40th anniversary. We had all these great plans to, play like the full album all the way through and different things. Then COVID hits. So that was the end of that. So now we're, celebrating. We got back going last year. We celebrated our 42nd anniversary, but it doesn't have the ring of the 40th anniversary, Yeah. So now we have to actually stick it out to at least the 45th. That's a good number.
We could count those COVID years. They shouldn't count because nobody was playing.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Definitely for all of most of 20 and a lot of 21 for sure.
Because we had actually had a tour lined up, and I had already taken time off, and that all got canceled.
Yeah. That was crazy. Crazy times.
Yeah.
It worked out good for me though, because, I was retired from the post office by then, and I was a caretaker for my at that time was 93, 94-year-old mother-in-law. I couldn't go anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
So COVID, that worked out really good for me. And I was getting paid to take care of her. So I socked all that money away and just bought records and bought stereo equipment. So I can't say COVID was bad to me.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, to a lot of other people, it was bad.
Oh yeah, it's all, again, it just proves that you took lemons and made lemonade. Stay with positive on track.
Yeah.
But let's get into the negative stuff then. Negative in the sense, I know that you have. We've already talked about it a little bit, and you put a good spin on it, and I actually can really relate. But I'm looking for the elephant in the room or whatever is the Mystic Records.
Okay, the Mystic Records.
Because, some people are like, fuck Doug Moody and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, if the way I see it, and like we were talking earlier, if someone's doing all the work and putting it out, why are you expecting something when you're not putting anything into it? I mean, he came up with this concept, went with it, helped a lot of bands. I mean, granted, there is the dark side to things, but that's life, and it's what you make out of it.
Exactly. So, I mean, I met Doug Moody from working at the record store. I mean, he would come in, open up the trunk of his car. There's Mystic Records. So, go through the boxes and take whatever needed for restocking the store. And he knew we were in a band, and so he asked, "Hey, do you want to do a record, a single?" Sure. What do we got to do? Nothing. Just nothing at all. There was no contract. It was just verbal that we're going to get 100 records.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want with them. Sell them, give them away. So that's how the Psycho Ward record came up. And we went up to Del Mar to 619 Studios, which was a cable TV place up there right on the Coast Highway.
Yeah.
And he brought that big old machine that was up in Hollywood that recorded Led Zeppelin.
Oh, yeah.
This monstrous 16-track machine.
Yeah.
He hauled it in there, and I don't know how they got it up these stairs to the control room, because it was a huge room for being a cable TV, big open room, but there was a upstairs control room with a window. So all this shit had to go up these stairs, and I thought, how the hell do you get this machine up here? And we recorded the record there, and it was a ball. We had a blast doing it. We had the guys from Prowler there doing background vocals, and because Paul was in the band, and it was like just a party, and had a great time. So again, we didn't have to pay anything. Doug recorded it. We kept the rights to the actual lyrics of the song, publishing of that type of thing. The only thing he copyrighted and published was that recording of his.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so any band that did a record on Mystic Records, they could go to another label and record the same album all over again, and it's fine with Mystic.
Right.
Because they only own the recording of the record. So it was a no-brainer. And we didn't know how to do, how do you put together artwork and a jacket for the single? So all we had to do was come up with Guff did our cover for the single. And I can't remember, we got the pictures from some friend. I think it was a show at the Spirit Club at the time, now Brick by Brick.
Yeah.
And Phil, helper there, did the production and stuff. He also did the artwork stuff. He put it all together. So it was great. I mean, it was just fun. There was no pressure for anything.
And it didn't cost you anything.
It didn't cost us a penny, and I gave all my records away. I still buy Social Spirit, those singles, the ones on the cardstock sleeve, which that's only the first run was a cardstock sleeve. I'll still buy those if they're cheap enough on eBay. If I see them for less than $10 a piece, I buy it, because I got to replenish the stock to give them away again to other friends. See?
Yeah.
So no, it was a no-brainer. Any bands that went in there, show me a contract or something written, signed, that says they were supposed to get this much money. Okay, I'll believe you that you might have got fucked over.
Right.
But as far as I know, I don't think there was much more than a handshake when you made a deal with Doug, at least initially when you first, signed up with him.
Yeah. What's funny is whenever I hear I guess through the rumor mill, people are talking about not getting paid and all these things, but it seems to get really vague. It seems like more of we should have done this and we could, so in hindsight, whoever's complaining is complaining that they didn't do more because they're, they went to someone else and they had to sign a contract. But if you're not paying anything and you expect to get, and you're getting records. I mean, if I could go now and he would record, the left outs and then give us 100, vinyl, I'd be stoked if it didn't cost me anything.
Exactly. And I think that some bands that complained, they got more records. I know they did. They didn't just get the initial one. If they complained, they got more records. And if they didn't sell them, then that's their problem. I mean, sell them. Back then, records were around $10 a piece, maybe a little less, $7.50. If you sold 100 records, that's almost $1,000, around $1,000. But I don't think a lot of these bands did that.
Yeah.
Until the ones that finally got serious about getting out of town, and then they needed to make money. But that's my take on it. I got no problem with Doug. He was great with. When we did our album, all he asked was to put out another single, and we did that real crummy live spit single, which I highly recommend. Don't pay much money for it if you do find it, because it's funny for just me doing my stand-up routine in between songs, but the recording was just horrifying. It's just like a audience tape. It wasn't even
Right.
a soundboard tape. I mean, I should have used a soundboard tape.
I actually have one of those that I used as a demo for, I think that was for Meat. But yeah, I mean, it's another thing too that I don't understand is for how many bands were on there. I think I have 3 or 4 comps, and I'm sure I have quite a few Mystic records. So, if that many bands had, and all I hear is complaining, about what
I only hear, I hear the complaining, but it's only the ones that right after that Mystic did a few records, they started getting big. Like you said, then they can get signed to another label.
Yeah, and then you can start.
And then
making
Mystic
money.
had maybe repressed their records, or maybe they had some stuff in the can that was never used and they put out a record,
Yeah.
But hey, that's the life. That's life. Go
Yeah.
talk to Doug and get a box of records and sell them.
I know you probably still do it now.
You know?
And here's the thing too: is you got other. I mean, there's as the people that we've talked to as we're relearning stories like Chris from Agent 51. The funniest thing is when what was it, Jared? He was up at Billy Joe from Green Day's house, and he was digging post holes. There was what was the story behind that?
Well, that was 9/11.
Oh, okay.
He got signed to Adeline Records, which was Billy Joe's at the time.
Yeah, and so
I think he got screwed with Surf Dog.
oh, okay.
I think that's the label he went to after that, and because a lot of bands don't get legal representation. They don't read the contracts.
Exactly.
There's hey, like you're saying, be happy that something's being put out, but then these labels start making money off of your songs that you no longer own.
Exactly.
And that's
why you got to be very careful on the actual rights to the songs you wrote versus publishing of a record. There's and I don't know all the legal mumbo jumbo either.
Right.
But I know that you should always try to protect what you write as much as you can to keep it so you can get that money. What's the RIAA or whatever, give you 1 cent or half a cent every time a song gets played.
Yeah.
You got to try to.
That's ASCAP,
ASCAP,
BMI,
that's it.
those companies. I don't know if there's even still.
I think there's still
anymore.
something. There's probably still something like that. It's got to be
because now you're not really selling records anymore. You're selling songs as singles.
Right. Yeah, Johnny V, he gets like these, 50-cent, $2 checks.
The royalty checks.
Still from the Mystic Records.
Wow.
And that's probably because of publishing rights. Or
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. A lot of people can get wrapped up in this stuff. And even when you get signed, like you were saying, you get signed to a big shot label and you don't read all the fine print, oh, you sold so many records. And then they say, oh, yeah, but it cost us this much to record you. It cost us this much to press the records. It cost this much to advertise you. That all comes off the top. Didn't you read that?
Yeah. And then also, going into a studio, we gave you this much money for this many hours in the studio.
Yeah, you're getting a loan from a bank, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's like I've told bands that I worked for in the past that actually blew up. They're doing their first music video, whatever, and the director's taking us out to dinner, and they're like, "Oh, look at they're paying to treat us all out to this dinner." I'm like, "Nah, they're not paying. You're paying."
Exactly. Exactly. That's why we were talking earlier about merchandise and the big time bands. They know they got it all wrapped up on that. That's where you can make some good money.
If you're smart.
If you're smart.
Back in the 90s, there was merch companies. So they would give bands up front. I think Korn and a bunch of other bands back in the day, they signed to these companies called Giant. Was it Wonderland?
I remember them.
Blue Grape. There were certain merch companies that would buy your merch. They would say, all right, we'll show you some designs. You pick the designs, and we're going to give you a check up front. But whatever we sell, we keep. You're getting that check up front. So sometimes the band will get $1 million, and they're happy with that. And I always tell bands, don't do that. You're going to make tons of money off your merch.
Yep.
Don't sell your merch rights.
But the other
you got to
thing,
do it right. You got to do that right, because, like you said, and especially smaller bands, that could be your next meal at McDonald's on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with us, it's gas money and per diems, and when we go out, we need that merch money. That's what keeps us going on the road. Yep.
The other thing about that's going around is their venues are writing in, because everyone has to have a contract now. Everyone seems to have a lawyer. So in the fine print, you'll see that the house is going to take 40%. So you have your merch.
Not that much.
There's horror stories of these bigger tours that I've seen.
I know
on
with
YouTube.
House of Blues, they would take, like in Vegas, they'd take 28% of your merch.
Yeah, and
now it's like 15 to 20. We took 15 back in the day.
Yeah,
and to me, it was for there. That's fine because we're giving them a spot, and we always had a rule like, if you're not selling your shirts over $15, you keep your money. We're not going to take a percent.
That's good.
So that way they could sell it to their fans cheaper and not rip the fans off. But you have bands come in and they're selling their shirts for like $50. And I had that at Soma with a big band from England, and they're selling their t-shirts for $50. So I ended up taking $4,000 from them.
Wow.
And it's like, no, you guys are ripping your fans off. This is wrong. If you guys brought your shirt prices down, that's fine. But you're totally screwing your fans.
Yeah.
Now, like tonight, Social Spit T-shirts, $5.
Yeah, and
$5.
And Soda Bar's not taking any cut. They didn't.
Well, they wouldn't know how many I had. I'd give them some arbitrary number.
Well, they don't do account. That's the thing. If they legitimately want to make a percentage, they need to do accounting and account
an inventory,
out.
Exactly.
And so this last run I did with Bucko 9 with the Mad Caddies, only one site, and that was in Vegas. They took a percentage, and I think it was 20%. And
see, here's the idea I would use. I'd have like a rolling anvil case. I would take out a certain amount of shirts, and then the case, you could set your shirts on top of it. And okay, count them. Go ahead and count them. And then as it started to deplete, I just reach into the anvil case, say, okay, 2 more mediums, 5 more larges. Then at the end of the night, did you sell anything? No. Well, we're going to count this. No, I guess you didn't sell any.
Yeah, we did. We used to do that back in the day. But like, to me, what pisses me off, like with Vegas, here they're taking a percent of our merch sales. Yeah, they're giving us a place to sell merch, but yet we're not taking a cut of their alcohol sales. We're bringing the people in, they're buying the alcohol. So they're making tons of money off of that alcohol, plus the door money. There's a guarantee the band gets, but still.
They're still making a good chunk.
If they're selling alcohol, they shouldn't be asking for a percentage of the money.
What happened was once one person did it back in the day, and the word got out that this is a cash cow.
Yep.
Anytime a place got big, of course, they're going to try to do that.
They write that into the contract.
And if the bands had just revolted and parked a van 2 blocks away and said, hey, after the show,
we're going to sell.
We'll be on the corner down here. We have $10 T-shirts, And then if the venue gave them shit, you'll never play here again. You could just say, well, we already played here, so what?
Yeah.
Well, the other issue is with the bigger bands too is they had the bootleggers.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. I'm guilty of probably getting some of those.
Well, sometimes they're better than what the band was selling.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, and not to throw under the bus, but the bus is already parked, and she was under it. My wife used to do that back in the day,
wow.
and downtown.
At Off the Record back in when they started selling T-shirts was right around the time I joined that outfit, and there was a time where those were not licensed T-shirts.
Oh, so you guys were buying bootleg shirts
because that's how it was. Nobody was complaining, and it wasn't like bootleg. Nobody was worried about licensing until as the years went on, and the bigger bands were noticing what's going on. Now they cracked down on distribution companies that were making these shirts and selling them. But back in the day, I guarantee a lot of those shirts were not licensed shirts.
Because like Minor Threat, they never made shirts. Fugazi never made any. They never sold merch when they toured. So
I don't.
So if you see a shirt, it's not from them.
I heard something from Ian recently, or it was a documentary or something, and they did not do. I think it was a documentary. They did not do merch. And just like, because we were lucky. They played twice. They played downtown and then the Metro location.
Several times at Metro.
Was it?
Yeah.
I was just there for the one.
They played the first time they ever played was at the Kings Road.
Oh, yeah.
On 30th Street. And that was like 82-ish.
Oh, that would have been Minor. Was that Minor Threat?
Minor
or was that
Threat.
Fugazi?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know you were talking about Fugazi. Minor Threat. Yeah.
And, just house lights, and they had a dryer that they brought in, used at Metro at least, to, dry the clothes. I mean, because it minimalist.
Yeah,
it was
totally.
all about, and I mean, to this day, you have to respect that of Ian. I mean, he's stuck with his guns.
Yeah.
Stage lights.
He rented
no merch.
I think he rented a Sears at the time. It was either Sears or U-Haul, like a small van with a trailer. And yeah, no merch, house lights. The ticket was always $5 to $6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just did it their way, and it worked for them.
And the records were usually cheaper than they always had a lower price, at least $1 or $2 less than.
And Ian always had it to where even their itinerary for them, they always eat at Denny's and they stayed at the Motel 6, so they kept everything really cheap. So,
and if that's your comfort zone, why go out of it? Why?
And he didn't have any middleman because he owned his label.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's weird that for being DIY that more bands didn't take that playbook and utilize it.
That's true. I don't remember many bands ever doing. I mean, I'll tell you one band today does something like that is Some Kind of Nightmare.
Okay, I mean, heard of them.
They're from San Diego, but they are on the road 250 days a year for the last 10 years plus.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and they do everything by themselves. Fantastic band. They pick up a drummer when they need it. And it's fantastic. I mean, they have a pension plan that they put money into. Yeah. They started this out when they were like 23, something like that. So there is some bands, I think, that have figured it out, just like the early bands did. But it's a lot of work. You're on the road.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the early bands had no choice.
Yeah.
There was no booking agents or, no talent buyers. You had to do everything on your own. Everything was DIY.
And that's what they're doing. They as they go on tour,
DIY.
they release where they're going. And if they don't have a show, they'll just put TBA and they get the word out. Yeah. And almost always they got a show, whether it's in somebody's backyard or at a venue.
Yeah.
Sometimes you make enough money, sometimes you don't. But they make their own merch. So if they sell that, they still are making some money. So so bands, I think they're still out there, but it's hard work. I mean, it's got to be just it's got to wear on you.
So back in the day, Golden Voice didn't reach out to you guys to do any shows in LA?
No, it was Battalion of Saints. That was it. They got everything.
Yeah.
I can't remember any other San Diego band playing up there, really. They might have, but I don't remember it. They were the band. That was it. That was the top of the shelf for San Diego, and they got everything.
Yeah, which is bizarre.
Spin Idols didn't do anything?
I think...
See, that was late. Was that later?
It was a little bit later. Yeah, Mike's been in the scene forever as well. I can't remember. I think he just turned 60. But they never really crossed. We did the one interview with him. I'm trying to remember back.
I know he hung out with a bunch of bands back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing is, in my mind, I always like a show. I can always see like Social Spin. At least you being in there somewhere, because everyone knows you guys.
Yeah, but again, see, the problem is that when Golden Voice's heyday was probably from the early 80s. I'm not sure when he first started, if it was like 81, something in that time frame.
I think it was earlier than that.
It might have been early, but see,
that would be Gary Topar.
We were gone for a period.
Yeah.
For, like 81, we just played a handful of shows. 82, we played one show. Then we didn't do nothing in 83, nothing in 84, literally nothing in 85. And this is when that was going crazy.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so, we didn't have the connections from if we had kept on playing and put records out that early.
Yeah.
Probably could have got up there.
Yeah.
But I went to a lot of his shows. I'll tell you what, they were big ass shows.
Yeah.
I remember getting backstage passes, the Longshoremen's Hall up in L.A. for the Dead Kennedys. And I got a picture of him looking at the crowd, and it was packed like sardines. And this was a big venue.
Wow.
And the look on his face was like, is this show even going to make it?
Right.
From not have a riot.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that guy did it, man. You talk about those early big shows. You could anything could happen. So
Think of the Vandals show down here.
Yeah, yeah. So no, didn't get a chance to go up there at that period. And by the time we were rolling in late '85, going into the rest of the '80s, we were all, either they were working, the people in the band, or just whatever. We just didn't do it.
Yeah.
We didn't reach out. It wasn't like the internet today where you could reach out more. Everything was done through fanzines. You'd find out promoters. You'd have to call them up. And
yeah.
So we just didn't do it.
I did a lot of that. I would call, I called Greg Hetson, and he gave me Keith Morris's number, and then that's how I got Bug Lamp, and I kept pestering him for the Circle Jerks to reunite. But yeah, I would just call people and just, bullshit with them for a while to try to make the connections, gain the respectability, and then hey, I got this venue. But other than me booking you guys at Soma, did Tim Mays book you? And
no, this was, I'm not sure. Here's the two shows I remember. We did a dungeon show, and I believe it was either New Year's Eve or the next day. New Year's evening. That was a dungeon show we did. And then I don't know who promoted the Fear show, because it was Fear, Unwritten Law, Social Spit. I don't know if there was one other band. We opened. That was with Chris, Rudy, and Johnny. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not sure who did that.
Would have been.
That was on Market Street or Union Street. So a funny story about that show. That was a great show. It got videotaped. I think somebody, it was, Jimmy Jazz, Dan, the video man.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sure he did it. And great show. I mean, it sounded great. So then we were done. So Unwritten Law comes on. This is when they were, new.
Yeah.
Kids. And I remember being on the balcony and looking at them and said to myself, they're going nowhere.
we said that about a lot of bands.
And then, a few years later, we're nowhere. They're everywhere.
So I want to correct myself. You're right. It was Gary started the production side of Golden Voice in '81.
Yeah. So see, that was right. We were so young then, and we had nothing to. I mean, our first thing we put out in '85 was a demo tape, like everybody was doing.
Yeah.
A cassette tape. Do it yourself, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. The only thing I kept an original cover. I never kept an original tape. I kept the master tape. I didn't keep the original.
Yeah. It's funny about same with me with all the demo tapes. I mean, I know I have some, but we ended up just because you could press your own CDs by that point for all the different bands. Minus Since in '77, I have our full length, but I don't have. We did a 5-song, but I don't even have that. Got out of all the bands.
See, I don't have
anything.
I kept pretty much everything, because I recorded Social Spit relentlessly back in the day. Whether give the soundboard guy, hey, can you put this tape in and record us, or I bring my little AOA stereo cassette deck, and I've got just tons and tons of live, not just Social Spit, all bands from those '80s period. And I never had a girlfriend or wife that wrecked any of them, threw them away, and smashed them with a hammer.
Yeah,
so I guess I must have been a real.
Basically, your audiophile.
Yeah, but I mean,
are you thinking of digitizing any of that stuff?
I digitized a lot of the stuff, not everything. Good. I've digitized it just myself, and it sounds good. It came out good, but the tapes, the way I've kept them in a dark closet, they've never been in bad conditions. I can pull the first tape I ever gave to somebody at the Skeleton Club in 1980 that recorded the crowd or a show for the Injections. I could pull any of those 1980 tapes out.
Yeah.
And they play like brand new because I use TDK or Maxell, the top of the line
Oh yeah,
companies.
the gold,
Kept them in good shape.
the gold cassettes.
Yep. So, but you know, Social Spit missed this. We missed the CD period. But I made CDs, which I sold at shows, just homemade, burn them.
Yeah.
You know, tell the customer, please don't drop this thing. You know, put it on your computer right away. So, you know, nothing's going to happen to it. So we did CDs. I did it myself.
Yeah.
You know,
that's how we did for our demos because it never, you know, other than Simpson, nothing was ever proper.
Did you ever get your masters back from Doug, or did
no,
still has them?
Nope, I have no idea. And then Dave Nestor, because he owned the studio, that's where we recorded the album. He's got the master tapes, but they all got to go through that process of being baked, you know, at a professional place because, you know, they were not kept in good condition. And it's sad because I collect reel-to-reel machines. I have 3, and I collect original reel-to-reel recordings from the 60s and 70s, as well as 70s that somebody did. I bought them on eBay. Some Navy guy did them. They were always kept good. I keep them good. And I can put any of those 40-year-old plus reel-to-reels on, and they play like perfectly.
So you got a bunch of studio recorded reel-to-reels that they used to sell back in the day.
Right. Not the high dollar stuff. I'm talking about like Merle Haggard, some movie soundtrack stuff you could find at Goodwill for like $2. Because, you know, if you want to get an Aerosmith or Black Sabbath reel-to-reel, you better bend over.
I know my parents had one.
They're out there, but you got to pay dearly.
And they had like Cat Stevens and
wow,
Carole King and stuff like that.
But I got like, you know, Black Sabbath and Leonard Skinner right when the Leonard Skinner live record came out, somebody right away put it on a reel-to-reel and the thing plays perfectly.
Oh,
you know,
I would love to have a Black Sabbath reel-to-reel.
I got We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll. Somebody taped that right away, and it's perfect. So
it's even hard to find a reel-to-reel machine.
Yeah.
No, I just find the scratch and dent ones and fix them. Yeah. Or send them to the guys at Classic Audio Repair in La Mesa and let them work on it.
I got a buddy of mine that he worked at Soma. We actually did a band called Flinch for a short period of time. Will, and he's been restoring beta machines for.
I got to get mine done. All my good stuff is on beta. All my live recordings from San Diego back in the late '80s, early '90s.
Okay,
all on beta.
I'll get you in contact with him.
And I got a machine that all of a sudden the sound died. The picture plays, no sound.
He's been doing that. I mean, back when he started with me in downtown. He used to do lights, and then he ended up at Metro. And he's just a genius. I remember one time, well, this was many years ago, but he must have had, I would say, upwards of 50 different machines, and he would fix them and then sell them on eBay in the early days of eBay, and he was making bank. You know, back when you could ship something and it wouldn't cost more than your item. But he's just a genius with all that, self-taught. And he would go and work for different companies doing electronic stuff. But his thing was beta machines. And I always just admired the hell out of that because it's such a different world for me.
Just that dumb Sony, you know, they would originally when it came out, they would not license it. Okay, so they wanted to keep the whole shebang. Yeah. So when VHS came out, I can't remember the company that invented it, they right away licensed it to anybody. They don't care who it was. They just license it out. By the time Sony did license it out, it was too late. VHS had them. But the quality, especially on the later machines for sound quality.
I think it was
unreal.
Either Magnavox or RCA, I think were the ones that came out with the VHS.
And they licensed it to everybody. Yeah. But that Super Betamax, some of those, I'll tell you what, the sound is incredible.
Yeah, he would make compilations. He did stuff for my projects, Meat, and I think he did some urine stuff. he did a whole visual compilation thing that he went and showed Neurosis, and they appreciated him bringing it there and showing them it was at one of their shows. But they're like, we're not going to get rid of our video guy. But so he would come up with some of the craziest stuff. Like he would find he would do a lot of war stuff,
right,
and then put it to music. But then he might have like insects, say like what is it? Praying mantis eating something, and then with Black Sabbath in the background, or one of my bands or whatever. I mean, but the fact that he would take a machine and be like, okay, this right now is about a $500 machine, and when I'm done fixing it, I'm probably going to get about 6 or 7. And I'm looking at it, and to me, it's just a bunch of knobs and plastic and wires and diodes, and I'm like, where would you even start with this? And then he just, give me a couple of days, and then he has it fixed, and then it's up for sale, and he shows me, see, I just sold it.
And today, some of those machines
are thousands
of dollars.
It's so
thousands.
And he's still, I mean, he just knocks him out. I mean, it's just like a hobby. But he was
Please get me that information.
Oh, no, I will.
I've got to get it fixed.
Oh, believe me, Cliff, I will. He'll be tickled pink anyways about, being able to share that knowledge and passing it on.
Are you talking about Neurosis? The last time I saw them, they didn't have their video guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was no visuals.
Oh, that's
kind of weird. I think it was like 2004, 2005.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know Scott's out of the band. Scott, his things finally caught up.
A lot of people are out of the band. The keyboard player was in the band either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're still a favorite of mine. Like I was saying earlier, I want to get Through Silver and Blood. It's a double EP or LP. And I have one of the records, but I think if I remember correctly, it's between $150 and $200 for the record. And I don't even know if it's going to be an original, but I'll probably have to buy it because that record.
They did that show at Brick.
The Through Silver and Blood.
Wow.
Remember, I got that. Scott had given me the demo because he was doing stagehand.
Yeah.
And man,
they're repressing a lot of stuff, though. I mean, I'm amazed where if I see a record and it's like, there's no way I'm paying X amount.
Right.
I just start searching, and if it's been repressed and it's only $30 or $40 compared to $300 or $400, well, I'm just going to get the repressing. That's how I got to live with it.
Yeah, I'll get it just to have the music because and we have a really cheesy record player, but I prefer hearing because then I know, I got to go and flip it over.
I got a couple of full manual turntables where you got to do everything.
Yeah, it's something about it. Again, as we were talking about earlier, I love the 70s. I love the fact that I'm collecting all these skateboards and toys from when we were talking with Tim earlier. I have Hot Wheels and Hot Wheels tracks. I collect Matchbox. I got my train set over there. So cheesy for being almost 55. I'll run my Hot Wheels track. I'll start in the kitchen, and I can hold it up on the back table there. And I have 2 loops that I usually do right here, and it'll end up right at the end at the table. So Pugsley can chase the car immediately, and he tries to knock it off of the track. And I'll sit there and do that for a couple runs. And I'll tear it all apart, and I'll put it away. Not like when I was a kid where you just leave it, and Mom yells at you to put it away. But I get a kick out of that. Something about just setting it all up to do a few runs. Pugsley and I, do it, and then I'll pop down and put on YouTube.
I've got a Richard Petty HO set.
Oh, really?
Yep. It's probably from the mid '80s, and I got one small slot car track, 132 scale. It's all in the box. Both of these are all in the boxes.
Yeah.
And so, I like the same shit.
Yeah. There's something about it and plus, growing up, I couldn't afford it. And now, and luckily, as I was saying earlier, my wife's like, whatever. I mean, I still have Tonka trucks in the back.
Wow.
I have quite a few, which is.
I have one. I have a Tonka bulldozer.
Yeah. I got
And then I got a miniature of the same one. Some company made a little plastic one.
Yeah.
And I sit that in the seat of the big one. Same thing as you.
Yeah, and it inside I'm like totally just like want to, scream because it's a couple of years ago, back when the backyard wasn't nearly as chaotic as it is. It was more, I was trying to grow things, but I had this whole setup where just like when a kid, I had all the Tonka trucks, the earth grader, the front loader with the dump truck set up, and I would actually get out there and start playing in the dirt. And I'd be out there with my beer, and then my wife would come out and just sit there and watch me. She actually took a few pictures of me playing. Just like, what did I marry? But now she gets it because it's just, it puts a smile on my face. It's like the same thing with playing records.
Childhood.
Yep.
And again, to come full circle, because I want to play another song from you, but coming full circle, it's the same thing with us doing these, I wouldn't really call them interviews. We just sit and chat for the podcast. Number one, because we get to learn, the stories of how people come up, but it's these things like talking skateboards or talking Tonka trucks, talking toys, but also that's all integrated with learning how whoever we're here with got into music and their path.
Yep.
And it's just, conversations that you can't have at a show, and when you're at a show, especially for, being the musician, we focused in on doing the show and then the small talk and the niceties, but don't really get to sit down. And
no,
talk
you can't. I mean, again, we're doing a show tonight. It's a lot of bands, 6 bands, short, 20-minute periods in between bands.
Yeah.
And so between the bands blasting and then if they got a DJ blast the music, it's like you really can't talk to anybody unless you're outside.
Yeah.
To talk, or you skip a band like you do. I've already saw them 10 times. So
yeah.
So I understand what you're saying on that.
And that's a thing that I never, being backstage, I did have more opportunities to talk with some people, but then again, we're still kind of on a schedule and I'm working. I can't be fully engaged in a conversation. So if I'm talking, like whoever, like we were talking about Otis earlier, rest in peace. Oh, but sitting back there when he was with Eddie Vedder, the funny story is I sat on O's lap and I pretended like he was Santa Claus and made my request of things I wanted. And Eddie's looking at me like, what the fuck? And even O looked at me like, and that amount of time in that short period of time, I remember the most out of trying to have a conversation with someone where we get in depth, because in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, is the band done? Do I need to round up the next people? Because I'm working all the time. So to be able to sit here and have these conversations, it's,
That's fun. I like it. This is my second podcast I did.
Oh, really?
I did one with Jim Call from the Penetrators, keyboard guy. He did a podcast, and it was me, Tim Mays, and him. And we're just talking about just punk rock and things. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Speaking of, so what do we got lined up here, Jerry? What music are we gonna...
Whatever he wants us to play.
Okay. Play see if you can do Drugs Make Me Sick. That's a nice short one. What else you got on there?
Or is it just drugs?
Yeah, drugs.
Let me try to get this dialed in here.
And so what album is that on?
That's on the single, Psycho Ward single. We're going to play quite a few. Reagan Gun Club's on. I'm proud of that song. It's a great song. Lenny loves it.
Yeah.
And then I go, Lenny, I don't want to change the lyrics to another president. Sometimes when I do this, there's kids out there like, I don't even know how much they know about Reagan anyway.
Right.
So we still play it, but sometimes I feel weird about it, but people enjoy it. And then we run from that song. It runs right into drugs.
Yeah.
That's how we've always said it. Johnny V, through the years, he grouped certain songs together. And if I try to separate them, sometimes, no, that they're supposed to be played together. So That's it. I just like that. That was a great song. I was one of the early songs I wrote.
Yeah.
It's real stupid, real dumb lyrics, real dumb.
But if it works, it
it's
works.
great.
And that's, that's the whole,
Black beauties in my brain makes me want to go insane. China white in my head wants to, China white in my head. I want to make you dead. And I mean, that's how I didn't know how to write songs. I had to, and then if it didn't rhyme with fuck or shit, then I was really in trouble,
Yeah, that's how I learned to kind of use, because I sing with an accent. It's kind of, because I listen to so much English stuff and, but there's a lot of Black Sabbath as well. But for some reason it made it easier for me to kind of slur things. And I remember you telling me, don't use the accent, just use your real voice. And it's like, I already had that so ingrained.
Yeah.
But I did slowly change it over the years. And there was, when I was doing, not Enclosure of Blood, what band was that? It was, Off With Your Head, I believe it was, where we did a demo, I think 5 songs. And I rarely in any of those songs would actually enunciate a single word. So it was a lot of, kind of like the real extreme metal stuff. And I would just kind of accent certain parts. And then I started, got complaints. By the time we were doing Graveyard Dogs, the girlfriend of one of the guitarists said, I love the music, but I can't understand anything he's fucking saying. So to spite her, I started enunciating more things, and then I came up with the song Bitch Has Claws, and that kind of I really enunciated.
I learned through the years. I mean, once we kept going, especially in this period from 2005 to today, and we were doing some recording in the studio and practicing regularly, I was figuring out finally after all the years how to actually sing,
right? Where
to sing from, and believe me, I ain't no, I'm no Frank Sinatra,
right?
But
right.
I can actually, if I'm at a show where there's a good monitor system, which is not a lot of the places we play, I can actually carry a tune and change my voice so that me and Johnny have this nice blended, kind of punk rock melody a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I like doing that. I mean, it's like you don't have to keep your voice the same. You should, just like you mature, your voice should mature.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to learn that now.
Just to give you a heads up, the sound is actually pretty good tonight. I think you'll be happy.
Oh no, I've never had any problem at any show. We played there before it was a soda bar. What was the name of the place? I can't even think of it. And where the stage was, like, when you come in the door, you'd make a right, and that's where you'd load into the stage. It was in that little room. That's how far back we went playing there, and I've never had a problem with that place. Casbah, fantastic sound.
Yeah.
Tower Bar, it's like hit and miss. Luckily, I could get off the stage and just get in front of the main speakers, because there's a monitor there, and I don't think it's working. I never had it work.
It's a footrest at that point.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I'm so used to being in the crummy circumstances that it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Because I figured I can't fucking sing anyway. So if I can't hear myself, I'm in great shape.
Nowadays, it's funny that you bring that up, because with doing the left outs, and I'm not really doing any vocals, I'll be doing some backing vocals. But even my bass playing style, where I used to really rely on kind of the dynamics and using just little tricks to move the song through while also singing. Now I listen to myself so much, and even the picking style, I find myself adjusting for each different song. I play it differently. I'm trying to fine tune what I can control, because I'm just doing one thing basically, is playing the bass. And granted, it's in my mid 50s that I'm trying to be professional and do the best I can do. But, we'll see once, playing live. And I've never played a show in front of people sober, but I think I'm going to be able to handle it, because I've been going to practice.
I've been doing that. This definitely from 2005 on. I do not like to drink. I might have one beer usually before we go on. But, back in the 80s, I mean, we got pretty jacked up and, but everybody was just fucked up, so it didn't matter.
Well, speaking of the 80s, we good to go, Jerry?
Yeah, you guys ready for some drugs?
Yeah, this one's from the 80s.
This is all about some drugs.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
In my brain, makes me wanna go insane. Trying to whine in my head, makes me wanna make you dead. Drugs make me sick. Drugs make me sick. Drugs make me sick. Place your drugs on PCB. That's why we are funny and me. Saturday night, take some moves. Lay on the floor and act like a fool. Drugs make me sick. Drugs make me sick. Drugs make me sick.
I love that trash can ending. That's the best. Was that from Apple Music?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I'll have to say that Johnny V did some work on that particular stuff that's on there that he gave to Candace to get it up on Apple, because it sounds like there's like 18 guitars on that thing. And I know the single is good, but it doesn't sound like that.
I like that version.
It might have been sped up a little bit too.
This is
I don't
from
know.
1995. There's No Place Like Home.
No Place Like Home. I don't know why it says 1995 unless he redid it in 95, because it's 89.
Yeah, they probably did remastered it or whatever in 95 and put this out.
Yeah, that I like that album. I mean, Mark Rude did the cover.
Yeah.
I remember saying to him, like Mystic paid him, I don't know, he didn't do it for cheap. I can tell you that right now. And I remember going up to LA and I saw it and it looked great. I go, yeah, is there any way I could have this artwork? He goes, if you want to fucking pay for it, you could have it. So I don't know hopefully his son, somebody in the family, has the original artwork to that.
Yeah.
And it was a weird. I mean, I didn't know what to do for a cover. So when that record came out, it was like the anniversary. Those movies that are on there, there was all like either 10th anniversary, 20th anniversary, 50th anniversary, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we came up with this theme of movie characters, and then with Dorothy's in the middle, she's all smiling, and then all these characters are ready to kill her on it.
Yeah.
Well, you even got Charles Manson behind Dorothy.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, and then Toto, her dog was Toto too. It was like a pit bull.
Yeah.
So, that was fun putting that record. And then if you look at the back cover of that, I didn't know what am I going to do with this back cover? I wanted to have some input.
Yeah.
What can I do that looks good? So I just got the back of the Metallica. It was a Master of Puppets record. It copied it. If you get a Master of Puppets record and put it next to the Social Spit, the way the graphics are and the way the pictures are laid out, it's exactly the same. Because I thought, hey, that looked good, so we'll just do that.
You know what? I'm going to have to use that. I'll take a picture because I got both the albums. I'm going to take a picture of that and use that as a promo for announcing this on the social webs of when we drop.
That'd be great.
That's funny. See, that's a little tidbit. I had no idea. I've had that record since, realistically, I probably got it from you. Were you still off the record by then, or?
I was in off the record until January of 1990.
Okay.
That's when I left.
Probably. Yeah. So, yeah.
Probably. Because, I mean, when did that come out? That was like 87? Something like that?
Yeah.
Master of Puppets? think it was
Or, wait a minute.
87.
Yeah, I think so.
And see, I needed something, because I needed just an idea.
Yeah.
And I just looked at that. It laid out. It looked beautiful. I said, this is perfect. I said, Phil, just copy this right here.
Yeah.
That's how I want the layout. And he did it.
That's fun.
Were you at Off the Record when Nirvana played?
No, I had just been out of there. I think that they played. Did they play at the one on 4th Avenue or 5th?
In Hillcrest.
Yeah, see, I was already gone. I was gone by then, unless it was, might have been brand new right when I left. But I didn't see the band we did some in-stores at the old store. We had Henry Rollins came in there. He came in, I think Motorhead might have did an in-store there at the old Off the Record. But it wasn't nobody playing music, just the band shows up.
Right. Yeah, that Nirvana show, my buddy Sid had called me up and he's he had just seen him playing there, and he goes, "You should probably check out this band." And this is the early days of Soma, and we were roommates at the time. And I said, I'm good, whatever the excuse was. I think I was out skating or something with Silas, and I completely, I flaked. I should have reached out to him and seen about booking them.
See, and as far as the in-store there, the whole grunge thing as the 80s ended, going into the 90s, I just never wrapped my head around that stuff. I mean, some of it I liked, Smells Like Teen Spirit had that good hook. But I mean, overall, I just did not think it was that great. That was another thing I probably said to myself, this stuff's going to go nowhere, probably.
Yeah.
At the time. So I don't even know if I was working that day and they were going to play, I'd be there, but I don't think I would have went out of my way to see them. I really don't.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because now I don't feel like complete outsider because even booking Green Day and all that, and all the bands that we worked with and I'd helped develop to get to the point of where they go with Len, I didn't jump on that bandwagon. I didn't like a lot of it. I just booked it.
We played at the original Casbah opening for the Melvins and the Cows. I swear, I think I left. I don't remember seeing them. I don't think I even stayed because we got on the show. We knew it'd be a good crowd there, and that's when you think of those bands with Social Spit. I mean, it's about as opposite as you could get, really.
Now I think that makes perfect sense with the Melvins, but it took me a long time to get in that Melvins band camp.
I'm still not in the band camp.
I like it because
I get a lot of shit for it.
I like the noise aspect and just some of the heavy stuff because I try to integrate some of the Black Sabbath, but more noisy. And...
See, now you know who I like that integrates this Black Sabbath sound, and they've been around for a few years, but I never saw them before until recently. Lord Howler. Oh my God! You got to see them. It's like they're unbelievable. It's like the San Diego's version of Black Sabbath and that type of heavy music.
Yeah.
4-piece band, 2 guitar players, bass drums. Bass player's got the Rickenbacker bass, big guy, and he's just using his finger picking and just have a shit-eating grin on his face and doing this little toe tap and stuff. And so please check out Lord Howler. Yeah. Great bands. But it's hard for me to like new bands. I'm so set in my ways, and I am expanding. I am liking more and more local bands. And why? Because they're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're good. They're in that punk rock style.
Problem is originality. You don't see a lot of that anymore,
I feel like I'm seeing some. I really do. Yeah. There's some stuff that, you can feel a hint of something, but if I'm smiling and happy, then it definitely strikes a chord.
Yeah. I do find, there's some things that I will see and be like, yeah, this isn't normally something I would listen to, but for some reason, the way that they are presenting it, I'm getting a kick out of it. And it's not something that I'm going to, crave or I'm going to get an earworm, but in the moment, I can be totally into it. And then there's some bands where, I have a lot of vinyl that I'll just start playing one song from whatever band, And within a few minutes, I'm like, no.
Yeah, I'm like that too. I mean,
And then I'll go and put on Husker Du.
yep. I got thousands of singles and albums of all kinds of music, and there'll be times that I cannot pull something. And when I do pull something, it's something I regularly pull.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, remember the band Sugarloaf?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they did the song Green Eyed Lady.
Yeah.
Well, I never had their album. And the album version is like, 8 minutes long. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unreal. The longest single version is like 5 minutes. And I got this just within the last year or two. And I'll tell you what, and everything else on the record is just kicks ass too. And I can't think of anything. Boom, I'll just play Sugarloaf. I know for sure I'm going to like this whole album. They do an instrumental of Train Kept a Rollin'. It makes Aerosmith's version sound like nothing. It's just so heavy and just incredible. So no, it's the same thing.
I'm that way. If I need something, well, lately, I just love the Dead Cross stuff. And that's just out of respect to Justin, but working with Mike Patton and then, of course, Lombardo on the drums. So that's kind of, if I want something a little different and heavier, I'll go to that and not, extreme noise. But the main one that I usually start with, as soon as I think, I'm going to put on a record because I'm going to go do dishes or whatever, Boogie's, he's running around and I just want to play something and kind of get into a project. Husker Du Zen Arcade is always...
See, for me, I always go to Husker Du Land Speed Record.
Oh, yeah. That just gave me chills.
There's some bands that like DOA, Something Better Change. I mean, that's just, boom, I just go to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say, God, just played this. But nope, play it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's timeless, this stuff. I mean, they never copied anybody. It was so original sounding. And, TSOL, the first 12-inch.
Yeah.
I could just play it over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's too good.
For me, well, This Island Earth by Dr. No.
That's unbelievable record.
One of those ones where...
for me, it's Plug in Jesus. Like, that's regularly.
Yeah.
Just that, when that came out, it was really pre the thrash metal, when they mixed. It was just on the edge of when it was going, and nobody sounded like that. Yeah. That was good stuff.
To me, it'd be Don't Be Mistaken, Aggression.
Yep, that's another great one.
That album's awesome all the way through.
Just the production, the writing.
That was on BYO.
Yeah, someone got their head kicked in too. That record with all those
compilation,
songs. That's a comp that I like to put on every so often.
Speaking of the Teen Idol's SOA.
That's a great one.
That's one of those. And then not Cryptic Slaughter. What is it? I can't remember what it is, but there's a few. She'll usually go to Bad Religion, or Husker Du as well. But I can't remember the other band. It's another fairly obscure band. But yeah, if I start going down the Oxnard, that rabbit hole, then I might end up going over, and like right now I'm thinking, Beowulf.
I had that album and I sold it and I kicked my ass because that one goes for big bucks.
Oh,
that was a great record.
No Mercy XL.
Yep, that's another one. I sold that one too.
Oh,
that was a good one.
Chills again. See, this is. I love
of course,
this.
props to Suicidal.
Oh, and because I'm running out of time actually, but. Are you guys going to be recording anything soon? And I want to get one. I want to squeeze out one more song too. Before
we've recorded at least an album's worth of stuff through the years that's never been released.
Are you going to release it?
I don't know. I mean,
time to call.
I mean, if I do it, then I'm going to have to. I may have to fund a lot of it. And when I think about the trouble of doing it, I just don't do it. Now, if somebody came up to me and say, okay, Cliff, I'm the money guy, and I know how to do a record, so let's get those recordings out and see what we can do with them, then I would, I'll do it. Well, but then thinking of just trying to, like Brian from the Skullbusters, he did this whole album, this new Skullbusters album. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
I mean, not just the cost of it, but the thought process, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So when I think of that, and I just say, I don't want to do it. Same with our blowout. I've had people through the years. I've had Curtis at Tank try to get me to give him the stuff, which that's not going to happen. And I just said, let's just leave it alone. Okay. That was a stitch in time. And so one time Curtis, I was getting these feelers that he was going to try to put it out behind my back. Oh. It was on the 35th anniversary. I just made 100. I just recorded them one at a time at my house, did all the labels, everything myself, numbered them all, put them out, and silence. Didn't hear about that coming out anymore. Because if I'm going to give that to somebody, I want to feel good about it.
Right.
I didn't feel good after talking to him. Didn't feel good about it.
Yeah. Well, maybe, once this drops, someone might, or maybe the universe will just bring something. But I understand if you feel like you're putting out something half-ass, that's the way that I am. If I don't have my full heart into it,
right,
then it's not going out.
Exactly.
Period. Because it's just, I don't care what someone else could look at. Oh, this is the, like skateboard art or whatever. This is the best thing and blah, blah, blah. Greetings and salutations. But if I don't feel good about it, then I'm cheating you. And then you're giving me, I'm not doing it for that.
Exactly. And
so if you don't feel right, then.
That our blowout, it's a great time capsule of the bands at that time in the early to almost, 80 to 83 period. Mm-hmm. But, people have to realize that all the master tapes that I got from these people, they were all on cassettes. They were all different kinds of studios, from very good quality to very close to like, why even put this out? And, then I mastered it all myself, one song at a time, onto a master cassette, and then gave that master cassette to this company here in San Diego that did cassette duplications on really cheap tape. So when you listen to our blowout, I don't know which tape you'll get. You might get a tape that sounds pretty good. You might get one that's not that great. So, for anybody to suggest that they can magically, with today's new technology, make this sound better, no. Right. It doesn't sound that good. You're not going to find anything on there that you're going to bring out. They can't bring out the Zapruder tape of Kennedy 100%. They're not going to bring out this. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep.
So that's why I don't really, it's very difficult for me to somebody would have to take me to a studio with this tape, with all this magical equipment, and let me listen and prove me right or wrong. That is it going to sound better? And then when you think about the bands, they're all great bands, but they're all little bands. Only some of them lasted only 1 or 2 years. And it's like, everybody's like 55 to 70 that remembers those bands. I mean, is anybody going to really be interested? Yeah, and you can sell it as some hardcore collectible that killed by death punk stuff.
Yeah.
Make only 100 on blood splattered vinyl and numbered, and then they'll sell all of them. The collectors will grab them, but I don't know.
That in that case, it's not really about the art or preserving that part of history. It's about money. So maybe that's better off just living where it lives now and then talking about it.
And I did it. Like I say, I made CDs.
Yeah.
I did CDs for as many people as that wanted it from those bands.
Yeah.
I redid and remastered the tape.
Right.
To put this 35th anniversary tape out. I did that. And so, I sold a few of those and I gave a bunch away. I still have a box of them in my closet for somebody to say, what the hell is this someday?
Yeah.
So, it's just, I do it for the love of it. That's why I do Social Spit. I mean, there's no money in it. I tell people.
That's why we do this.
Yeah.
For the love of it.
You know, I usually give all my money to Johnny V because, I mean, what's a fourth of $35 or $50? Now, when recently at the Ken Club, we actually got paid. I couldn't believe it, almost fell over 200. Brett is always very good with the bands. You know, there's stuff that comes in the door that goes to the bands. We had a good crowd. So when nobody collected the money, so when Johnny found out how much it was, I said, Johnny, I want the $50. But there's no money, and I do it because I love it.
Well, do you have any Social Spit stuff? You want to put out another 7-inch or anything?
Like I say, we have enough easily without writing one new song. We could do a full album. Whether we take what we've recorded and reprocess it and put it out, or because we did it really good, or say, let's go in the studio. Because, you know, I got a list of songs. I don't know if I gave it to the guys, but I have a list, you know, of 20 songs that's never been on anything. You know,
that would be brilliant
as far as vinyl.
Yeah.
And that's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah.
You know, we,
again, it's the process.
You know, the whole thing of like, you find the studio, you got to do it. And I got to restrain Johnny from overdoing overdubs and stuff. I want it to sound punk rock. I want it to sound good, but I don't want this to be a project where you go in the studio and like a couple months later, still mixing it. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I know.
So if I become the producer, like if I have to pay for it, and I'm the producer, then I'll be producing the record, if you know what that means.
Yeah.
It's going to come out the way I want to do it.
Yeah.
You know,
But
I was watching these programs. There was one on about the Doobie Brothers and how they picked up Ted Templeton, and they used him for years. And you know, I learned from those documentaries that, the band has the creative stuff, but it takes another mind to actually put it all together and get the juices flowing.
Yeah.
See, I can't play an instrument. I can't play a note on anything.
Right.
So I think I'd be a good producer because I have a good ear.
Yeah.
I know what sounds good.
Yeah.
So Johnny, if you're listening
said-
out there, you're not going to be in the studio twisting a lot of knobs, okay? Believe me.
I can relate to that too, because whenever I hear any of the demos or anything that I've done, I will critique the vocals for a little bit, but I don't really put that much emphasis on that. So my levels of the bass, whether or not are you suppressing some of the distortion in this part, I pick it apart. So if I was to be producing, it would be just me.
Man, see,
and then everyone else would be like, you're on it.
What I've listened to, my core of punk rock is from the earliest days, let's say, I'll just pick an arbitrary, 73 to 75, up until 90. That's the sound I got tons of, I'm familiar with. That's where I'm going from. And there was a lot of bands in that period that had some well-produced records and then great writing, great production, great artwork. You know, that's what I feed off of. So I think I'd be pretty good at getting a sound. I know what Social Spit's supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
Okay. And, if it gets over a certain amount of, I don't know what word I could use, but if it gets too much or something, I'm going to know it.
Right. And overproduced.
Yeah. That album, when it came out, it was done. It was done by the guys. Dave Nestor, I think Phil from Mystic was down there too. And there was not that much overdubs on it. Not much at all.
Yeah. So
and it sounds great.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'll look for.
What should we listen to? We're gonna
if you could pick something from the No Place Like Home album, and do Media Maniac. That's a great song.
Okay. And Cliff, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Seriously.
This is the most, I probably should have been doing this through the years, but again, I don't ask anybody.
Yeah, well,
do you want to talk to me? That's my problem.
At some point, this is just ever growing as we keep doing this. Maybe we'll have you and Johnny come on and kind of do a back and forth. And
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
yeah, I think it
Very
would,
interesting.
I think that'd be a lot of fun just to
It
get
would.
get his input. Plus, it's to mix things up, and again, just to extend the conversation.
Right.
And seriously, thank you. I really appreciate.
I appreciate coming down here. I mean, I really do. I was all kind of nervous. I did, like I told you, I did the one podcast one time, and then I think, oh my God, am I going to get a brain fart here? I can't think of something.
It happens. It happens to us. We get brain farts.
Your
all the
brain
time.
starts racing, and So anyway, no, I'm very happy I came. I'm glad you invited me, and I'm happy.
And have a great show tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, as long as I don't fall off the stage, nothing else matters.
It's kind of small, so be careful.
That's I'm okay. I try to stay away from the edge.
Yeah, I do the same. All right, Jerry, let's hit it, and here we go.
This podcast was recorded at Red Rum Skates. Mixed by me, Jer. Music provided by Breakacre. We appreciate all our listeners and our guests. Please stay tuned until the next one. Have a great one. Bye.